Hello, my name is Farida Fortune. Like Hala, I was born abroad. I was born in South Africa in a place called Kimberley. It is well known for its diamonds, but nothing else. And when I went to vote for the first elections in 1994 at South Africa House, they didn't have a book for my province at all. So relatively small, but big in my eyes. And I come from a family of 10 children. And my father had 7 girls. And in an African society, every time he had another girl, somebody said, "Poor Buta Usman, poor brother Usman," and he would just smile. So why did he send someone like me, a girl, when you've got 10 children, away 10,000 miles to receive an education when I was pre-pubertal? And I think the reason was exactly the same. He came from a powerfully driven family, a woman. His mother had claims on the mine that became the Kimberley mine, and she also founded another mine. At the same time as mining, she ran the isolation hospital. And of course, when there's infectious disease, no one wants to nurse in that environment. So she ran that, ran her home, and ran these mining claims. And on top of that, we had apartheid. But before apartheid, there was no black empowerment at all. And she started right at the beginning of the century a black empowerment group for both men and women. So I think this was this powerful driving force. She was born in 1871, and she's still, I think, in our family, the most powerful influence for all the many men and women through the generations. So I came here and I spent almost all my life here in both medicine and in healthcare and in education. In 2015, I went to speak at the UN. My husband came with me, and the cleaner couldn't understand why for 4 days I was sitting in the room. She said mostly staring, and I call that thinking, and my husband was having a good time. So she would, every day, she would bring me a cup of coffee. And that was just another woman perceiving a woman in need and helping me. But the thing that I was thinking about, how did I get from Kimberley to now be going to giving a keynote speech? And looking back, it was a long, very emotional journey, and I spent those days in the hotel working through every step of the way. What has happened since is that we presented some projects which we are now working on. One is 8 countries in Africa, and another under studies on. And so that's in health and education. But actually, what has happened for other people like me? As I said last time I spoke, I asked my father, "Why did you send a girl?" And he said, "Farida, if I'd sent a male, it would change our family. If a females in my family went, this will change the whole community, the way they think. And more importantly, the ripples will be much greater than you could ever have thought of." And thinking about that, that's true. So this journey as a child to English boarding school, where the food was absolutely awful. You know, I'd never eaten food out of a tin. I couldn't understand how you could get spaghetti into a tin with this horrible orange sauce and somebody putting it on your plate, and you're so hungry you eat it. How my feet was always so cold, how we didn't learn anything. So I came from Africa, going to English school, thinking that this amazing education, didn't learn anything at all. All they taught me was, you know what, for people like you, you shouldn't wear any colors. Brown suits you best. For people like you, you have a terrible accent. This is how the word should sound. The minute I left there, I went back to my accent and wearing the things that I'd liked. I then was on a journey to actually try and get, I didn't know you needed O-levels and A-levels, and battled my way through all of that. When I got to A-levels, we had this terrible system in South Africa where they were withdrawing passports. So I had to go to a private institution. I learned nothing. But I had made up my mind, I was going to university. So to do biology, you had to do dissection, bought my own animals through the post, my rats and my worms, and I taught myself dissection. I taught myself the A-level syllabus, and thank God I passed. But then I had to get into a medical or a dental school. I didn't know anything about dentistry. So I went for an interview at the place where I am now a senior professor. And they said, young lady, we don't take people like you. All right? And because you're used to apartheid, it's not a big deal. I said, but you know, you can try that place in Gower Street where they take people who are different. I went, it was in the summer, I tried to open every door in the medical school at UCH. Until when I knocked on one door, a voice said yes. I went inside. He said, what do you want? I said, these are my A-levels and I've got art. I taught myself, give me a place, please. I cannot let my father pay for an extra year for me to be in this country. He said, this is the dental school. I said, I will make a good dentist. And I had no idea about dentistry at all. So he was so astonished. He said, this afternoon we've got one place available, 4 people are coming. As you got all your certificates here, go away and come back 3 o'clock for an interview. Went downstairs, a wonderful Afro-Caribbean lady was there, and she said, I said, you know, they're giving me an interview. Girl, not with them hair. She said, you go. She said, how much money have you got? I said, I've only got £5 to the end of the month. She said, go to that hairdresser, tell my friend Moira, do your hair, pull it back. She said, and she said, go and put your school white top on and come back. She said, them men, you know, they only want the black woman to scrub them floor. She said, show them you can work. I came, I got the place. I was truly blessed. I did well at dental school, and I tried to go back to South Africa, and I still have a letter which said, there is no place for you here. So I went to see my boss, and he said, you know what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to do public health. He said, I'm not having you dig latrines in Africa, Farida. You're going to go to medical school, and you've got 3 weeks to prepare. I have 3 weeks to learn the whole of the syllabus to the second year, but at that time, medicine and dentistry, preclinical were very similar. And then I didn't hear, and I was very upset, but in fact, my name was up on a list. I got into medical school, and then I had no money. Okay, my father, land, his mines, he was dispossessed of them. All right, and we're still fighting to this day for his land and mineral rights. So what did I do? I went. I didn't have any money. Don't ever, anyone, when you haven't got money, put you off doing the things that you know you need to do and you want to do. So I got in, and every Wednesday afternoon I worked, and Saturday afternoon I worked, and a holiday off. I did everything. I cleaned people's houses. I worked in a factory, on and on and on I could go. I did it, I paid, and I qualified. Right. So then I was thinking, this is wonderful. As I was qualified, they put a list up of jobs for the males and the females. All the females got the not so good jobs, and the men got the wonderful jobs. So a group of us went and saw the senior tutor and said, you know what, we're not taking these. And he said, anyway, I can't tell you what he said, but we all went and we all got our own jobs. So that's your pre-registration jobs. We got our own jobs, and on another part of my journey where I ended up did me very well. I tried to then go and do surgery because now I was a dentist and a doctor, and the chap I was working for was just died. Got somebody from the college to say, women like you don't get into surgery. Thank God we have lots of surgeons now. And I just sat and looked at them. He said, you don't. But then one of the other consultants said, you can come and be my senior house officer. And he was wonderful, looked after me, and then said, you know what, you shouldn't stay here any longer. You should go back to London to the teaching hospitals. So that whenever you have a struggle, actually there's a teaching and a learning for you. I know sometimes you can't get your head up because of that, and you can't get your heart up. But no, right? No, simply say, what is it in this bad situation that I have to learn that's going to be useful later on? Okay. Again, I then did quite well. I did cardiology. I could have been a very rich cardiologist, but actually there was more to what I wanted to do, and I went to do my PhD. Had an exceedingly difficult time. I had my son, and I got a letter to say, would you like to resign? He was premature. I got out of bed and went to work the next day. It's not like you have now. So again, all right, when there's an obstacle, you can cope with it. Okay, my son is grown and doing his own PhD now. And then I started in leadership roles. And in leadership roles, I could reiterate everything the previous speaker had said. But always, when you're in, I think it would have been the same had I been in South Africa as I was here. The most difficult thing was first and foremost being a woman, all right? The second thing is a woman of color is invisible around a table. All right? It is very important for you in those circumstances to be role modeling, and so not show that these things are very upsetting to you, but also to be mentoring the people behind you so that they can not have those obstacles too. Okay, so I still do mentoring. I still have an afternoon every month where it's open house, and somebody will ring. People are always ringing me, and I'll come and I'll talk through. And really, it's just to give them strategies to cope with being in either medicine or dentistry or academia. All right. I then, and always having something so different, I was needed for a job, right? So I always got a job because people invited me because they needed me for something. But after you've done their job, actually, they don't want you to have a voice. So I was clinical director of the hospital, I was dean of the school, and as long as I was doing what people wanted me to do, I made us first in the country. we were always in budget on the clinical side. And then when I built up everything and somebody came in and wanted to change, people didn't want me to have a voice. And then you as a woman have to realize sometimes the institution is greater than the individual. Okay, and if you're a woman in that position, you know, find a strategy to step aside. Do not ever give in to your beliefs, to your ethics, to what you know is right. Right? I then went off and actually bid to the government and got funding and have a very successful Centre of Excellence now, which I run, but also continue to do the work through research and through UN knowledge exchange, empowering some of the global funding that's available to work in other countries, help people put up schools, help people innovate, right? If you remember, everyone has something to offer. So when you go to Africa, there's lots of countries, lots of different cultures, and in places people have more knowledge than you have. So always give them the benefit for their knowledge and learn from them. Don't always think you're going in to tell them what to do. And so I've got a few slides which I have will put up. So any of these slides, any of you women can take it and you can change it and you can make it your own. And I've used, in some of these are some from the UN which can be used, all right? So I passionately believe women's rights are human rights, okay? Gender equality is part of the Sustainable Development Agenda, all right? And I'm going to show you the women empowerment principles, which I think you can all take and take away with you. Okay, so these are, gender equality is a fundamental human right. It's enshrined in law, and I'm sure people who know better than me would tell you that too. But I would like to say that the UN does make a huge effort to support women's rights, and I've got lots of areas, including business, to buy, comply, and have made a difference. Okay, so the empowerment principles, the UN, this was signed off in 2010, are really leadership programs for gender equality, equal opportunities for women, health and safety, education training, enterprise development, community, and then, as our chair was saying, transparency, measuring, reporting. And I don't think you should do anything, right, without implementing why you're doing it, what, you know, a whole circle, and always have an ethical and governance structure around it. Okay, so this is a lot on the slides. Don't even bother reading it, all right? It's just to say that empowerment is a critical driver for sustainable development. So in 2015, these sustainable development program to 2030, it's really, really important. So when you look, you will see it'll be up, and you can take the slides and you can change and add, all right? Okay. It's not the only development goal, but actually it interacts with several goals. And if you, even at the workplace, right, and even if you take these into account, they are really important. In every aspect, if women are involved, my dad was right, there's always a ripple. They make a difference, okay? We all have these cultural unconscious biases. I've worked with someone for was a female for 20 years. And then we were all doing unconscious bias training, and hers came out. She said, you know, Farida, she said, I still come out that I prefer a white man, although I love working with you. And you know what? We were out in Tanzania a little while ago, and what happened was we got a fantastic nurse who goes around and does all the programs. And I said, you know what? I'm sure your unconscious bias is to prefer someone's white. She said, that's me. She said, you know what? If I get on the plane and I see a black pilot, I start shivering. And this is a black person. If I see a white pilot, I relax. Now be honest with yourselves and just think, when you see a woman, do you shake even more? Even you. Remember, we all have that built in us, all right? And we have to make sure the next generation don't. Okay? We don't get paid the same. Still in this country, you don't. 20% less than a man. Okay? Physical and sexual violence is rife. I told the story about in the area I work, almost one woman a month is killed through domestic violence. Okay? In the East End, you don't have the same opportunities for jobs, education, training, and professional development. It just does not exist. You might even get to university, but are you going to get a job when you leave? If you do get a job, are your family going to let you do the work? All right? So women are disproportionately disadvantaged. Okay, and there's a slide with the facts, which you could have as well. So we need to have these opportunities. So if you're thinking of doing projects, all right, what do you do to help reduce women not going to work? It's not good for them, all right, and it's not good for the money that they get or the economy. What about their health? It increases social care costs, and they're unhappy with it, all right? Make your workplace diverse, okay? Diversity is extremely enjoyable. Everyone learns from everyone else. So when the Times asked me, when I was head of school, what would you do for the women? I said my staff are both male and female, and what I would like is for the best outcomes for them, whatever their sex, right? So although it's important, remember, okay, we make smart business decisions and we increase organizational effectiveness. Okay, however, this is 2018 in hashtag Women Empower. Okay, women are more than twice as likely as young men to not be in education or training and to be unemployed. And you all saw this. You know, weren't they brilliant? The American football women's team, inspirational. However, they were still getting less than the men. Pay gap, 38 cents for every dollar that a man got. So those girls who brought such honor, okay, to the United States is a problem. Okay, so what about improving women's health? If you just supply sanitary towels to girls, all right, you decrease absenteeism globally by 3%, and that has huge economic power. And the same with discrimination. If you have a diverse workforce, you increase your profitability, you eliminate abuse. And this is a shame for me because in this country, this is a report in 2017, domestic sexual abuse, okay, continues. And as a doctor, I would say in my medical clinic and my center, people are ill, all right, because of mental health issues causing physical illness caused by abuse in their family. Sometimes it's the children abusing the women as well, okay? So what do you do you need to put women in the leadership roles in companies. If you have 3 or more in senior management, in every dimension you measure, you outperform companies who don't. So what can you do at a local level? Because you can do all these big projects and things, but really, I keep on saying to myself, what have I done in my community? Okay, and that's the most important thing. What have you done for the people around you? Your community might be the hospital, your community might be school, the university, but it's also your family, right? Very important. So, and I'm all about advocacy. Let people tell you what they need, not you tell them what they need, and you help implement that. I think there's specific issues that could be dealt with, but then the other thing is, we're now such a multi-racial, cultural, diverse society all over Europe, all over Africa, right? And embedded in all of us, there's still huge problems. So here, perhaps in the Somali, the Sudanese, the North African communities, the women are still very disenfranchised. You can have your daughter, a massive master's, whatever, but she's still not working. She's at home after that. Your wife's at home, you go out, she's at home all day, right? Sometimes there's a language barrier. I have a very, very good friend whose mother is still illiterate. What are we doing about those women? So for my part, when they come to my clinic, the Bangladeshi women, and they've got a child next to them, my child's come to translate for me, saying, do you watch a television? Yes. I send the child out, and I do, as best we can always communicate, right? But what we really need to do is actually, I need to start some English classes, and I've spoken to the local mosque about that, for those women. So they need that, they need to empower, they need to see you, all of you women, all right, who are powerful women in your own community. They need to see you doing things, but doing things with them to bring them out to where you are. So every time you have an auntie or grandma and they're sitting at home, you're going somewhere, take them with you. They'll enjoy it. Don't feel ashamed of them, all right? You are doing exactly the same as society does to you, so you can't complain. Things and diet and exercise, so I'm really keen about literacy, and then diet and exercise. We always say, oh, you this, you that, you the other. You don't eat this, that, and the other. Do we show by example? Do we come and say, oh, you know, Ma, I'll cook with you today. I know this different recipe. Can we all try it in the family? You make your wonderful biryani, I will make something else, and we share it. Okay, and so you introducing things that are might be a bit healthier, although you never know, her biryani is probably better made than yours. Okay? And do not tell women but what to do, but listen to what they need, and what they would like, and try and help implement the change. So you can take this again and make it your own. So I'm also very hot on this putting a governance structure and accountability around everything that you do. So there's a preparation, planning, implementation, a report stage, and then you're going to evaluate, monitor, and come round in a circle again. And so this is 2 projects that are around school children ahead of householders, you know, who the stakeholders, your community, what do you do in your planning, what are the risks, okay, how do you implement, okay, because what do you want to change, and then if you have made the change, all right, have you learned a lesson doing this? Is there anything else you have to do? Have you done it right or not? So, and another one, absenteeism through school or work, through menstruation, you know, is it because they haven't got the money to buy them? Is it because they've not allowed access to them? Is it because they just don't know how to? And you can then do, you know, you can do projects where you supply materials. It's really easy to teach people to make pads. There's also cultural taboos, you know, where women were excluded and still are from a whole load of things. You can't cook when you have your period, you can't do this when you have your period. And so those sort of thing is learning. How do you learn about it, and how do you teach, and how do you make a change? And then the university schools, healthcare and social hubs. So it's not only this women here who all have periods. Actually, what are the men's perception of those women when they are menstruating? And sometimes they're not feeling so well. In South Africa, if you're really unwell, you get a day off for your period. All right, people all, and because they've done that, people say, oh, economically it doesn't work. It does work, because people always on the other days put in more. So economically, it's been for them really a good economic thing to get the day off when you had your period. So, you know, at the beginning of your period, you feel absolutely lousy. You can cope with the rest of it. You can have a day off. And it made no difference. In fact, it's improved economic output. And then always, you know, you have, as I say, this structure, committee, governance, looking at what you do and looking at the lessons, right? So I think these 7 principles are really important. They were done with businesses, but actually you can take that and adapt it for education, health, science, research, whatever you do, right? In science, we now have these Athena Swan Awards, and you can't get grants unless you have Athena Swan Silver. So that has made universities change, all right? But I can still see a whole load of grumbling of women and saying, it's changed for this lot of women, it hasn't changed for us, right? So it has to be inclusive, okay? And I think that's important. And as I say, Ban Ki-moon, when you embrace these principles, you join a great and gathering movement to unleash the power of women and change the world. That's what my dad said. And by working together based on shared values, we can advance the common good. No men, one man here today, okay? However, we're listening, and another man who is a genius sitting in front of you. You the genius? Okay, but actually, even that one person could make a difference. But most of all, the power resides in you. Never forget that people are fearful of power. They're fearful of what they actually have inside them. All right? So you are extremely powerful. You have to believe in yourself. Thank you very much.
So please remember, if we all help and do a little bit, it will make a big difference.